Hello everyone, I'm JG and welcome back to Music Forever. We're today bringing you guys a brand new track review segment where I get to talk about several recently released songs that I happen to listen to and have some opinions on. So let's just get started here with the first track that I want to talk about today, this new collaborative track between Chvches and Marshmello, Here With Me. Now, when it comes to Chvches, I would consider myself a really casual fan, if you will. I like some of the tracks that this group has produced. However, none of their full albums have ever really captivated me all that much. And when it comes to Marshmello, don't really care for his music all that much. I just find it to be really cheap sounding, really tacky sounding, just like the most bottom barrel sounding EDM music out there right now. And whenever I've heard him pop up on a track, it's never really been one of my favorites that I've heard. So I wasn't really looking forward to this track all that much, as I was mostly just expecting it to be a bit of cheap sounding Marshmello production with some Chvches added into the mix. And I mean, that is technically what you get here on this song. However, I will say at the very least that this track is slightly better than I expected it to be. It's not a great song by any means. I won't even go as far as to say it's a good song overall, but it is nowhere near as bad as I was expecting. The production here on this track is pretty standard EDM music fare. I mean, it's nowhere near as just cheap sounding as a lot of Marshmello's production that I've heard him produce in the past. However, it's still not all that great sounding. It just sounds very generic, very basic, once again, really bottom of the barrel, if you will, when it comes to EDM beats that you could have out there. And the kind of unfortunate thing about it is that what Chvches bring to the table here on this track is actually pretty good for the most part. I like the vocals that they bring here on this track. I think they sound pretty solid overall. The hook on this track is also pretty catchy too. I just kind of wish that the production here on this track was maybe as good as the vocal performances, because then maybe this could have been a pretty good track overall. But it's just a shame that the production here is just really generic and uninteresting. Also, I do feel like the track is slightly underwhelming with what it brings to the table, not just when it comes to the actual quality of the aspects of the track itself, but I just feel like the song ends a bit abruptly too. Like, I feel like there should be a bit more to the track. Like, it's just really basic, and in terms of its construction and its structure, as well as, of course, like I said, the production as well. So overall, I mean, this is a pretty average song in my opinion. I like what Chvches bring to the table here on this track, but once again, I'm not really a fan of what Marshmello does, even if I do think that what he does here on this track is better than what I've heard him on, before in the past slightly. I mean, Chvches fans, Marshmello fans, I guess check this out, but, don't expect to be wowed by it, I guess. The next track I want to talk about is this Charlie Heat and Denzel Curry collaborative track, Aloha. Overall, this is a pretty solid collaborative track in my opinion. I think Heat's production here on this song is pretty solid all around. I think that Denzel's performance on this track is pretty solid too. I like the hook on this track. I think it's pretty catchy. I will say that, kind of like the last track I was talking about, this one does run maybe a little light on ideas for what I would have hoped to get out of the track overall. Maybe not quite to the same extent as the last track I was talking about, but I do kind of wish that there was maybe just a bit more to this song. The track just ends a bit quickly, and I just don't feel like there's a lot to it, really. The lyrics on the track, while not particularly bad or terrible or anything, aren't really standout either. I didn't really see any great lines on this thing worth remembering, or that I thought were really funny or creative or anything. They were just decent overall. But I do think that this is really a solid track at the end of the day, and a solid collaborative track as well. I really don't have much to say on this one. I will just say that the production overall is pretty good. The performances on the track are pretty solid, but it didn't really, wow me either. It's just pretty decent. Fans of these artists should certainly check out this track. I think you'll have a good time with it. But if you are not really a fan of either of these artists, I don't think this track is necessarily going to change your mind. But yeah, solid track. Moving on, the next song I want to talk about is actually another collaborative track, this one between Adam and Steve and Waterparks, titled Rainy Days in LA. Now, I'm not familiar with Adam and Steve, But I do like Waterparks, and that's why I checked this track out. And overall, I really wasn't feeling this track overall. I don't like this track really at all. I think the vocals on this thing just aren't really all that great. They're just so drenched in auto-tune and vocal effects that they feel really just mechanical and distant, but not in like a way where, I feel like the vocals need to sound that way, or they're doing something cool with it in that regard. It just sounds really bland and uninteresting. All these vocal effects that pop up on the track just really don't need to be there, and I don't feel like they make it sound any better or anything. They're not really used in a super creative way. It's just kind of distracting, and it doesn't sound all too pleasant. The instrumental to this track isn't really anything all that special either. I just feel like it's kind of a bland pop instrumental. The hook on this track really isn't all that catchy either. I feel like it has potential to maybe, deliver a really catchy and explosive hook, but it never really gets there all that much. And this track also, kind of like the last two collaborative tracks I was talking about, feels a little light on ideas too. I mean, it's kind of strange that these three tracks that I've been talking about are all collaborative tracks, and they all run a little light on ideas in my opinion. However, I feel like this one in particular especially runs really light on, ideas to make this song last, because this thing just ends so abruptly and with doing so little in its runtime. This track is only a couple minutes long, and it doesn't do a whole bunch in its runtime. The verses are pretty bare bones and lackluster. The hook, like I said, doesn't really explode. It's not super catchy either. The vocal effects are really the only thing that stood out to me when listening to this thing, and not for any good reason. It just kind of feels like a demo of sorts, but with a higher production value, if that makes any sense. Like, this song overall just seems to have the depth of, like, a demo, but it has the polish of a professionally made track. So yeah, it's not a super exciting listen. There's very little to this song really worth caring about. And yeah, I didn't like it really at the end of the day. And finally, the last track I want to talk about here today is this new Cal Chuchesta track, Rubber Duck Pickup Truck. Cal Chuchesta, best rap man in the game, has returned to us with a new song here in this past week or so, and it is yet another fantastic track. Cal really showcasing why he's at the top of the game right now when it comes to hip-hop. Cal has always showcased himself to be this really versatile artist, being able to pull lots of different styles into his very signature sound, but all having it work really nicely. And Rubber Duck Pickup Truck is just another example of this, as he seems to be pulling from the very repetitive sounds of a lot of hip-hop at the moment, but he's able to do it in a way that's better than any of these artists have ever really done before. This track gets by on just having the words rubber duck and pickup truck being, primarily what consists of the lyrics here in this track, and yet there's so much repetition, so much repeating of these phrases that you start to associate rubber ducks and pickup trucks, and it's really something magical. It's like Cal, he really is a true lyrical wizard behind the microphone, in a sense. This track is almost hypnotic in how Cal is able to repeat these phrases over and over again and just suck you into the world and the atmosphere of this track. A world and an atmosphere comprised of nothing other than pickup trucks and rubber ducks. It truly is a special feeling that I have never gotten from a song before. Rubber Duck Pickup Truck just really showcases how Cal is at the top of the game right now. Not just his own personal game, but just the rap game, or even the music game, the art game in general right now. He's at the top. He's above everyone else, and tracks like this really showcase why, with so much depth and interesting content packed into it. How could you not say that Cal isn't really changing the game right now? So yeah, overall, this is definitely, yet again, another Cal Chuchesta track. There's not much else to say about it. And with that said, that concludes today's video for these track reviews. If you happen to disagree with any of the points that I have here in today's video, if you dislike any of these tracks more than I did, or you like them more than I did, that's perfectly fine. In fact, feel free to leave your own thoughts on these songs in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more music-related content. things like album reviews, more track review videos, countdown lists, things of that sort. If you enjoy that kind of content, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching once again, and stay golden.